We have seen the creation. We have seen God making human beings, God placing the man and woman in the Garden of Eden to take care of the garden, God honoring man with the crown of glory, uh, and giving authority over everything that God has created to man on this earth. Right? And we have seen how serpent was used by Satan to tempt Eve, to sow the seed of doubt in Eve's heart, and then Eve finally giving up to her temptation and having the fruit from the good and evil, and also sharing the fruit with Adam. And when God asked them on what they have done, it was a clear indication that God wanted them to confess and say, "Sorry, God, that we have done this mistake." But instead of confessing, we have seen Adam and Eve both blaming each other and blaming on the serpent for the mistake that they have done. So we have seen the nature of man changing in chapter 3, and we have seen man also being able to show the signs of sin or signs of devil after eating the fruit of good and evil, right? And then God said that after eating this, they should not be eating from the fruit of eternal life, that they may live forever, because the state that we were in was really not good and was not helpful for man. And if at all, with that state of mind, we have to live for eternal life, then it would have been a very sorrow and sadful situation for man. Hence, God has decided that He will be sending Adam and Eve out of Garden of Eden by placing cherub and by placing a flaming sword at the east side of Eden. Right. So Adam and Eve were sent out of Garden of Eden, is what we have seen until chapter 3. So in chapter 4, what are we going to see? We are going to see the first birth and death of a man. So, verse 1 says in chapter 4, Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." So, we can see the first birth uh, that ever happened from Eve. And it clearly states Eve saying, "With the help of the Lord, have brought forth a man." So we can see, even though God has sent Adam and Eve out of Garden of Eden, He has not left them. And we have seen in many verses, many references until chapter 3, that God has loved man so much that He wanted to protect and to take care of man in whatever way He could. Even the serpent was cursed. Eve was informed of the painful uh, childbearing that she will have. But when it came to Adam, because of Adam, the land was cursed. The ground that he was made from was cursed. So here we can still see that God helping Adam and Eve in their first delivery. The second verse says, "She gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil." The Hebrew version of Cain is Cain, and Abel in Hebrew is Abel. And according to Hebrew scriptures, these both brothers were in fact twins. So there was one conception. So Eve conceived for the first time, and she bore two sons, Cain and Abel. The third verse says, "In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord." So here it is clearly stated that there was a course of time when both these brothers were supposed to come into the presence of God with their fruits, with their offerings. And we have seen in Genesis chapter 3, the first sin offering that God had to make post the sin of Adam and Eve. We can see a sacrifice of an animal happening in Genesis chapter 3. And with the skin of that animal, he actually made clothes for Adam and Eve. So we can understand that the tradition of sacrifices, the tradition of bringing sacrifices in God's presence, have started from Genesis chapter 3. So in third verse, it says, in course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of soil as an offering to God. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offerings. But Cain and his offerings he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. So there are many versions of understanding these three verses. One of the verse says, because Abel has brought animal, it involves blood, flesh, fat, and we can see in sin offering that that's a favorable offering to God. But at the same time, if you refer to Leviticus chapter 2, it elaborately talks on the offering of grains as well. And it clearly states even the grain offering is equally favorable to God. So there is no difference if a man is offering an animal or he is offering a grain offering, because everything is for a certain reason. And here it's the first fruit, right? But if we refer to Hebrew chapter 11 verse 4, in Hebrew chapter 11 verse 4, it is clearly stated as, if you can read, it says, by faith Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. The differentiating factor between the offering of Cain and Abel is in fact faith. Hebrew chapter 11 verse 4 clearly understands or clearly explains, by faith Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offering. And by faith Abel still speaks even though he is dead. It is all through faith. Abel has offered through faith, and this also briefs us that Cain's offering, something was missing, and that missing part was his faith in God. And that must be one of the reason why God looked favorably on Abel and his offering, but Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. And what happened here? Again, we can see the nature of sin coming back. Cain was very angry. His face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. So it's a clear indication of warning to Cain by God, saying that Cain, why are you dull? Why are you sad? Why are you downcast? Why is your face upset? And a clear recommendation from God is, if you do what is right, have a little faith and bring your offerings the next time, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, God is also warning about sin ready to attack Cain. However, days passed and something very sinful is happening here. We can see the first death of a man in verse 8. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. So this is the first recorded death in the whole Bible. And if we clearly read the verse, it says, "Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field." So it was clear, a very well planned murder that is happening here. The elder brother or one of the brother is planning to kill his younger brother, and he told Abel that let's go into the field, let's walk through the fields. Once they reached there, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? Now, this verse should remind us of a similar question in Genesis chapter 3, when God was walking through Garden of Eden. He asked a question to Adam, saying, Adam, where are you? And here God is asking Cain, where is your brother Abel? And in Genesis chapter 3, when we were reading that question, we also have meditated saying, God is, he is Alpha, Omega, he is everywhere, he is present everywhere, nothing is hidden from it. There's one verse which says, even I am in the depths of the sea, God, you still see me, right? There is nowhere in the entire creation that we can hid, or then we can hide from God. So there is no way that God does not know where is Abel. There is no way that God did not know where Adam was. So here God is asking Cain, where is your brother? And it again indicates us that God knew what happened, and God wanted to give an opportunity to Cain to see if at all he has that remorse, if at all he has that repentance. And Cain would say, God, I am sorry, I have done a mistake. I did not expect that he will die. I did not expect this would be the result, because we need to understand in that time, nobody has seen death. The only death Adam could see so far was the sacrifice that happened in Garden of Eden. And many Hebrew studies actually refer to this whole story, saying that Cain was taught by Satan on how to kill. Satan instructed Cain to attack him in such a way, hit him on the head, and that is when Abel will die. And after that, the only offering that God can see or can have is yours, so he will like it. Whatever might be the motivation, but Cain has given into the temptation. Cain has done a very grave mistake and sin here. And God, knowing all this, He's still giving an opportunity to Cain by asking him a question saying, where is your brother Abel? But as we have seen in Genesis chapter 3 with Adam and Eve, that there's a new nature, there's a new behavior in human beings. So, similarly, Cain is also replying here to God, saying that I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? Then the Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. Now, again, what is being cursed? Cursed is the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops. For you will be a restless wanderer on the earth. And when God is saying here, God is talking about permanently casting away Cain from the presence of God. So far, though God has sent Adam and Eve away from the Garden of Eden, they are still in his presence. God is coming, God is talking to them, God is talking to his family, God is talking to his children. God is present there wherever Adam and Eve and his family are settled down. But here, because of this grave sin that Cain has done, now he is cursed that he will be a wanderer. He will be roaming around in a land where God cannot be present. So when you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crop for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. And this wandering will be on a permanent basis. Now Cain said to Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear. So many of our readers, Bible readers would go through this verse and say, maybe this is where Cain has repented and is pleading to God that God, my punishment is more than I can bear. So somewhere he's having a remorse of what he has done. But the verse speaks to us in a very different way. Here, Cain is not sorry for what he has done, but in fact, he is negotiating his punishment to the God. He's saying, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. Now, again, there are many versions of how can we read this. There's a version which says there were wild animals in the wilderness, or that Cain was fear that Cain had a fear that if he is found by the animals, the animals might attack him. There is also a version which talks about fallen angels. So Cain was afraid that the fallen angels might kill him. There are many versions of it, right? But however, Lord said to Cain, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So he has put a mark on Cain. God ensured that nobody kills or attacks or harms Cain. And God, even now, even after having so much of grave mistake that Cain has done, God is still taking care of Cain. God is still promising Cain that Cain, you are cursed and you will have to go through this. But however, I will put a mark on you that nobody would dare to harm you. If anyone is doing it, vengeance will come over them 7 times over. So, again, referring back to what we have meditated so far in all these chapters, that God's love for man is endless. Every step since man ate the fruit of good and evil, God is always finding out ways to save man from this sin. And even here, after Cain has killed his brother Abel, when he was cursed and he is about to leave the land from the presence of God, and when he pleads to God about the punishment that he is receiving, God is still giving him a mark that nobody or nothing can harm him when he is wandering on the earth. So let me take you through this. So as we see, the next verse says that Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod. Now, Nod in Hebrew language, it also refers or it also means wilderness, which is on east of Eden. So if we see in our previous chapters, in our previous study, we have realized that Garden of Eden, if we look at all the rivers that are flowing from Garden of Eden and all, we have all understood that Garden of Eden should be somewhere here in the Iraq, right? And now Cain has moved towards, sorry, Cain has moved towards east of Garden of Eden. So there are many archaeological evidences that states that Cain has moved towards a place called as Eridu. So this is the surrounding, or this is the place where Cain was roaming around or wandering around. So from here we can see that mankind will start spreading, mankind will start building cities, mankind will start establishing for themselves or making a name for themselves. So in the excavations here, it is found that oldest city ever existed was in Iraq with the name Erdab. We will also see where this name is coming from. And these are the sites or the pictures that we can see here on the screen. And the very interesting part is the skulls or the human bodies that were found in these excavations. Their skull had a different design or a different shape than a normal human skull. Everything else was same. Everything else was exactly the same except for their heads. And it is also believed that the mark that God has given to Cain, which we have seen in verse 15, refers to a different shape of head that he has received. The structure of his head has changed there. And various idols that were excavated or that were found in this site, if you see here in these pictures, their heads are different than a normal human head.
Okay, then whose heads are there? Sorry, bro.
Akka,
ఎవరివి head?
ఈ extreme left la ఇది human head ఇది,
Mm.
right? So if you
Yeah.
see the skull, the shape of the skull is completely different. It
Mm.
is elongated. So these actually in science they call them as lizard men
Mm-hmm.
because of the shape of the skull. And the idols that were found here, these are the idols that were found in this place. Let me try to increase the size of this picture. కనిపిస్తుందాక? Hello.
Yeah, yeah. కనిపిస్తుంది bro.
So these are the idols that were found there. Idols are nothing but, maybe after a certain period of time, they were trying to create or taking one of the person as God, or they must have come up with their own mythological stories. But this is the first ever city that was built on this planet Earth.
Okay.
And the name of the city, this is in Iraq, towards the border of Iran, and the name of the city is Erud. Now we'll see where is this name coming from.
Okay.
So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, which is also another word to say wilderness, which is towards east of Eden. And this time to wander further away from God's presence, away that he will not be able to see God ever again in his life from here on. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Now, there's one, a very frequent question that comes up whenever there is a religious debate that is happening between different people, or whenever there is a debate that is happening between atheist and a Christian, saying that where did Cain, have a wife? Where did his wife come from? Right?
Yeah, even I have
And this is a very common,
yeah, even I have doubt because
yeah, this is a very common question that comes. So if we see, Aga, Bible has mentioned in the beginning when we started study of Bible, we said Bible reveals only as much as it is required. Even
Right.
though there were many great people, God has revealed the creation only to Moses because it was required at that point of time. And similarly, God or the Bible reveals names of what is required for us. But when it says in the beginning, or when Adam and Eve had their children, it does not mean that it was only two sons that they had.
Hmm.
So scholars say that they also had daughters, and one of the daughter is whom Cain married. And if we see geographically also, it is not very far away from where Adam and Eve must be living. So this is the Garden of Eden. God has sent them out towards the east of garden. He has placed a cherub and flaming sword there. So Adam and Eve were there. From there, uh, Cain was cast away. Now he is being thrown into the wilderness. He went there and settled down. He went to a place called as Nod is nothing but wilderness. So I'll not call Nod a place, but it is into the wilderness, far away from Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
And Cain made love to his wife. So this wife is nothing but one of the daughter of Adam and Eve. So a simple explanation by also had daughters, and Cain has married one of his sister. She became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, and he named after his son Enoch. Now, son
Okay.
of Enoch is Irad, and this is where the city of Erdad we have seen in the previous slide. In the below also we can see the picture of this excavation. This is how the city was built. So I'm sure Cain must have built the city and named it after Enoch. And later Enoch must have given it to his son, or his son must have further built it and changed the name of that city to Irdad. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mehujael. Mehujael was the father of Methusael. Methusael was the father of Lamech. Now, again, referring to what we were discussing about wife of Cain. So, when Bible talks about only one child of Cain, it doesn't mean that they had only one son, or that was the only child of these people. But they were the most important thing, names that we should remember. They must have had some hundreds of children,
They are the chosen
right?
ones who.
Yeah, who have got their place in Bible.
Yeah.
So to Enoch was born Irad, and this is where the name of the city that we are seeing now has come out. Lamech married two women. Again, why is it mentioned that Lamech married two women? Until now, we have seen everybody has married only one wife. There's only monogamy that is going on. His name is mentioned because the first time polygamy has come here. And everything since Enoch or Cain, we can see everything is happening within the city walls. Lamech married two women, one named Ada and other Zillah. Again, these two ladies must be his sisters. Ada gave birth to Jabal, and he was and raise livestock. So if we refer back to the curse that God was speaking to Cain about, God has made it very clear that Cain, now even if you want to till the soil, you will not be able to, the land will not be able to produce food for you anymore. That was the curse that Cain has got after killing his brother. So now we can see mankind getting into other kinds of professions, other kinds of living. Ada gave birth to Jabal, lived in tents and raised livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all who played stringed instruments and pipes. Zillah also had a son, Tubal Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. Tubal Cain's sister was Naama. Now, very interesting. Everybody has got only one line in Bible, but here Lamech is getting two lines. In fact, three verses. Lamech said to his wife, Ada and Zillah, listen to me, wife of Lamech. Hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding you and injuring me. The translation of Hebrew in the real Hebrewic Bible, the word man the word that was used to mention young man this city that Cain has built on the name of his son Enoch, we can see that sin started building up among humans. It came to a place where even Lamech killed a young child just for hurting him, or something must have happened in that city. And we do not know much. Bible doesn't talk much, but I'm sure if we meditate further into it, we can understand that Satan overtook Cain, and the city has turned into a place where sin existed, or sin was being incubated or breeding in that city. The other way of looking at this verse is God said that Cain, you will be a wanderer. But instead of being a wanderer, Cain has built a city for himself with walls surrounding, living within the city, and settling there in that particular place. And as we have meditated in Genesis chapter 3, that sin has a habit of passing through the generations.
It's just like a generation curse.
As like blessings, sin is also passed throughout the generations. Now, what is
Mm.
Lamech saying here? If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech will avenge 77 times. So he's boasting to his wives about his power, his strength, and he's declaring in a way himself as a god, because God was talking about vengeance in this place of Cain, saying that if anybody harms Cain, the vengeance will be 7 times, the vengeance of God. But here Lamech is talking about his vengeance, saying that if Cain, God spoke about the vengeance on Cain for 7 times. Here, if anybody is touching or even thinking of harming Lamech, the vengeance would be 77 times. So, looking at all this instances of what's happening around, we can get a glance of what must be happening around in that city. And Lamech started with 2 wives. People must have gone to n number of wives, and polygamy has actually started here for the first time. Now, coming towards the last two verses, 25th verse says, Adam made love to his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. And we can see our salvation came from Seth. So thank God that, God has blessed Adam and Eve with Seth. Uh, he gave them two children, Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel, so there was no children that were born to Abel. But after many years, God has again given another child to Adam and Eve, a boy child, Seth. God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. Seth also had a son, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. The verse might seem pretty simple, saying that at that time people began to call on the name of the Lord. No, it clearly states that Seth has played a very vital role on again talking to people, people who were there, or his brothers and sisters, about God, about God's commandments, about the offerings that were supposed to be taken to God, about Sabbath, that people had to come into the presence of God. So it clearly states that Seth was the one who actually started leading in this area. And at that time, people started going or looking towards God again. Now, if we see the genealogy that Bible spoke until so far, we can see the children of Cain, or the family line of Cain. Enoch was born to Cain. Enoch had a son Irad. Irad has a son Mehujael. Mehujael had a son Methusael. Methusael had a son Lamech. Lamech was evil, and we have seen him hurting a young man or child. He was the first one to have polygamy or multiple wives. Uh, and Bible speaks about his family line only until here. Now, if we look at Seth, Adam had a son Seth. Seth had a son Enos. Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methusael, Lamech, and unto Lamech was a son born named Noah. And through Noah is what we can see. The we can see the great story of great flood happening there. We will come across that chapter in next. That will be the seventh chapter of Bible. And what really amazes me is we have seen seven as being the number of completion. So Bible started, the creation started on Genesis 1, and by seventh chapter, the Bible also talks about destruction of the whole world through the great flood in chapter 7. So we'll see that in chapter 7. And Adam and Eve also had other sons and daughters.
Okay.